Hello, hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Welcome to Beyond the Bank Financial Tool for Democratic Organizations. My name is Gilberto Maurishaw, and I'm a contributor for Bread Cooperative. We are Bread Cooperative. We're an organization founded on the principles of post-capitalism, trying to build the infrastructure for a future new economic system. We are a solidarity network of post capitalist projects involved in crypto. We share labor, power, resources, decision making, and mentorship. And we want to really build the foundations for alternative systems that actually serve people, that don't just serve power, but it also creates ways that communities can work together, that communities can make a difference for themselves and for others, and that gives them the power to make this difference too. So it's about empowerment, it's about mutuality, it's about cooperation, it's about economic resilience in the midst of, as I like to say, a global collapse. But we're very hopeful for the new world that we are creating, in spite of everything that might be coming up against us, right? I like to say we're going to do it and we're going to win. So we've been working, I think, for the last 2, 3 years already, and we've worked with a lot of different organizations, whether that's the EU, uh, Funding the Commons, Deloitte. So really at the intersection of communities, technology, and society. And that's what we do. We're building the digital infrastructure for a new society. So the context for this meeting obviously is relevant for all of us because it's not just about the technology that we're building about, but about the history of why we do what we do. The history of collective action, community resilience, and social action is a foundation for a future founded on solidarity and justice. What does that mean? That means that our current reality, everything that we have right now, is a product of things that have been built before us. Community action, whether that's a labor movement, whether that's a climate movement, whether that's regarding human rights, regarding the international order and and law. um these things are often taken for granted because we just presume, oh yeah, the world has always been this way. There's never been child labor, or child labor was eradicated because we suddenly decided that it's bad and we should just do something good instead. But no, the reality is that all of this exists as a consequence of continuous organizing by communities and a continuous um, effort to build the better world that they envisioned. It came with struggle, it came with force, and it came with hard work together. So that's why we're called Bread Cooperative, because we also recognize, that sometimes things have to bake for them to be ready. And yeah, this is community labor. We're all contributing to this new garden that we're building, that is our future reality. And we are founded on the principles of mutual aid, transparent governance, dual power, and economic democracy. These are the principles that guide our work. Um, we imbue our technology with this as a foundation, as a fundamental part of what we do and what we are, because it's not about just technological tools. They can mean anything. It's about that the technology that we build is rooted in the values that we have and in the purpose that we have for society, and that recognizes the reality of the status quo, especially with regards to organizations and NGOs. Cooperatives and NGOs are very much in a pickle right now, and we see it across the board, all over the world. There's major funding cuts happening. We saw U.S. aid has been, um, yeah, it ceased to exist basically, and there's development and humanitarian cuts in different countries, whether it's the U.S., the UK, the EU, um, and a lot of communities are struggling. And they're struggling because for a long time they were dependent on these funding structures to build social and community good. And right now, a lot of that is gone. And that means that people's lives are at risk, and people are dying, and organizations are struggling to make things happen because they do not have the ability to do it because they lack the resources. We're seeing weaponization, deplatforming, and canceling. We're seeing like organizations being persecuted for their work. There's a lack of transparency and ability to manage money collectively in the current instruments and software and tools that we use because they're not really built for organizations that think differently. They're built for this current status quo. So the financial tools that we have do not match democratic ideals. They're often made to elevate hierarchies. They are made to be very unilateral and not collective. And this also, of course, impedes the ability for us to move resources around the world to communities that need it in a way that is efficient and quick. You know, if you're an organization that's not working in crypto, that's not working on blockchain, that wants to move money from one place to another, you know that's going to take a long time. You're going to have to pay like let's say like 20% of the cost for like a wire transfer, and then it'll be a surprise when the money gets there. I mean, I've had that experience myself before where I was waiting for money for up to like 2 months. And, you know, when money is late, like life keeps happening, right? You still have to pay your rent. You still have to leverage um, your own resources to be able to survive. And when you're doing work that matters, that is timely, that is time sensitive, that's not okay. That's unacceptable. And it has to really also connect with the fact that some people in some countries do not have the infrastructure. They don't have access to the banking tools. They don't have access to banks. Like, especially in the global south, you see a large group of people that do not have bank accounts, that cannot get bank accounts. So how are you going to send them the resources that they need? You'd have to do a whole convoluted way of sending money, and then you have to verify it like 75 times with the know your customer tools, and then they'll still reject you because you don't have the right passport. And there is a global inequity with regards to financial infrastructure. There's a global inequity with regards to uh, the ability to access resources. So, how do we bypass these financial middlemen? The transaction costs are incredibly high, and that's something that, yeah, is problematic, to say the least. And we're seeing that banks are turning into enforcers. We're seeing that um, communities are getting deplatformed because they are seen as risky for the powers that be. And for organizations like ours that work at that intersection, that work at the front lines of real life issues, that becomes a matter of life or death. And yeah, we see like examples of these, um, with regards to corruption. Like this was from a few years back with Occupy Wall Street, where there was a lack of transparency, and because of the lack of transparency, that breeds the ground for corruption or breeds the ground for mismanagement because nobody really knows what is happening. We're seeing people be arrested and persecuted because they are for pro-Palestine, and we're seeing their bank accounts get closed unilaterally without it being right or wrong. These are things that are happening. We're seeing organizations face extra financial scrutiny because there's a lack of financial transparency and accountability when it comes to financing, because everything is up in a mysterious shroud of financial jargon, or websites and places that are not accessible for people to see. So people within the movements cannot hold their leaders to account, and rather cannot even co-lead together with them, which is a problem. And we're also seeing, GoFundMe's being blocked. after millions of dollars have been raised just because of political persecution. Um, so you finally did all the work. You got the money that you needed. You made an effort. You organized, and then even though you received it, you still can't get access to it because the money was never yours. Because the platforms were never yours. They were never created for you. And then we also see organizations leveraging, governments freezing accounts of organizations that are fighting for peace, that are fighting for justice, um, because they are authoritarian and they want to crack down on things that are happening. And oh yeah, for what happened to Francesca Albanese is a perfect example of that. Thank you. Um, So we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure that is needed that goes beyond just the traditional ones, because the traditional ones are not made for our work, and that's community work, that's equity work, that's justice work, that's solidarity work. Especially not now when the reverse of those things is being glorified, the reverse of those things is being celebrated. So that's why we're here. That's why we're Bread Cooperative, and why we are using Web3 tools to kind of create a new status quo, to create a new reality for these things. So why Web3? I think Josh is gonna dive in a bit on that.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Joshua Davila. I'm the co-founder of Bread Cooperative. And yeah, I think, what Gilberto's great presentation of kind of like the problems that we present ourselves with. I think maybe for many in the audience, but maybe not everyone, there's kind of like the clear line and a clear, um, you know, use for crypto tools or Web3 tools in which that would kind of help with some of those problems or assist or kind of like avoid completely. Of course, it's context dependent, but um, kind of like our the place that we're coming from comes from a place of social justice and for trying to um, yeah make the reality of many of the missions of some of these NGOs or other organizations that you guys are working with. And so Web3 has kind of been the place with all of its flaws at the same time, the place where we found where we could find points of leverage to be able to harness the technology in a way that's smart and informed in order to, you know, complete the objectives or goals. I've been doing myself a lot of like helping with sending aid to those directly in Gaza for the past couple of years, and so that's also kind of like informed a lot of my understanding and like I guess tacit knowledge about these things. Um, but sort of some of the maybe high level points for people who may not be aware as to why kind of Web3 is the place where we search or like build on top of for some of the solutions that we do build. It's in part because it allows for things like collectively governed digital commons and being able to programmatically make agreements between each other. It uses cryptography, so it enforces through mathematical verification whether some sort of event happens or not, with the movement of funds, for example, which we'll be exploring in our demo. Um, it is kind of like a general kind of ethos of building on top of open protocols versus proprietary platforms. So in the way that GoFundMe, being a proprietary platform, because of its position, it's able to withhold funds or to um, yeah, not work for you basically. Versus an open protocol where there are kind of rules known from the start. You have higher guarantees that some events will happen. And as well as just general resilience from, because of all these different attributes with the technology, resilience from political weaponization and blockades, and then kind of like a source potentially as well as of new capital and funding if you do it right. So maybe if you go, should I try to present from my computer, or do you want to go to the next slide?
I can go to the next slide first. I mean, these are both of our questions.
Yeah. So some of the, of course, I've had these conversations many times with different types of people from different organizations, and a lot of the same questions kind of come up. So I thought we thought it'd be good to kind of answer some of those questions that maybe some people may have around. For example, the use of energy is one thing we put. There's a little graph on the bottom right where you can see kind of comparisons of energy use between different technological systems. So on the furthest left-hand side are global data centers. They use a tremendous amount of energy themselves. Right after that, you'll see Bitcoin, proof of work. So the Bitcoin blockchain is one that does use a considerable amount of energy, but it's also the one that we don't use. We don't use Bitcoin for any of the work that we've ever done. It's not even like, it's not just because of the energy even that we don't use it. It's also because of limited functionalities, I would say, as well. Um, and then, yeah, if you go all the way to the far right of that graph, you'll see Ethereum proof of stake. That's what that stands for, which uses a fraction of the amount of energy that even Google or Netflix uses, which are big technical infrastructures that um, that a lot of people use. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like one of the kind of like arguments that we put forth. We generally focus on the Ethereum ecosystem, so it's one that uses a lot less energy. Another question, of course, that comes up is whether crypto is filled with scams and slimy crooks. Sometimes that can be true, but we'll say that we have carved out a space in a niche where that is not the case, or where we kind of have our defenses up so that these types of people don't really enter. And so kind of because of this reality a bit as well, we find it extremely important to be able to profess and share how this technology can get used without having the danger of it having to interact with these crooks and being scammed. So trying to do a lot more work in bringing the signal amongst all the noise that's kind of in the crypto space for a lot of people. And yeah, I guess when it comes to whether your money is safe, I would say generally yes, it is, if you know how to use a crypto wallet. So that's something we'll go into a little bit as well. There are different ways how you can provide security to funds, and this is kind of the big reason why we were wanting to show multi-signature wallets and how we use them. How do we use it? So we'll go into that a little bit. I'll explain a little bit of the math, just very high level stuff. So it shouldn't be too complicated. If you do have more questions, feel free to reach out. We also do workshops. We do other types of as well, like seminars, if that's something that you or your organization may be interested in. When it comes to volatility in the crypto space, there is a lot of volatility. The general kind of rule of thumb is that if you don't want volatility, then you put your money into stable coins. Stable coins being cryptocurrencies that are pegged to the value of another asset. 90% of the time, that's the US dollar. So in the demo that we'll be doing today, I'll be using a US dollar stablecoin. But that it could also be the euro, it could be the Swiss franc, it could be gold. There are many different types of assets that you can find tokens in which they are stable against, if that's kind of if you're not wanting to deal with volatility and you only want to get the certain benefits from using the technology. And is it legal? Depends on your jurisdiction, really. But for the most part around the world, it's generally pretty legal. There are certain maybe things that you are not able to do legally. Maybe like I know some countries don't allow you to pay for anything in crypto, although you can hold it as an asset. But yeah, it is generally a kind of legal gray zone. The kind of maybe the slight silver lining with maybe the current U.S. administration is that probably at least the United States isn't going to target people for using crypto for the time being. But yeah, it would. I'm not a lawyer, so it really depends on your jurisdiction, but I can say that, you know, none of us have ever gotten in any legal trouble. Yeah. Is there anything else? Did I answer all those questions well?
Yeah, maybe does anybody have any quick question like regarding like what they just heard? We have some time for that.
I do actually put it in the chat as well. So the other big challenges that I see is privacy issue, right? It's nice that everything is transparent, but I don't want people to know what I'm buying and what I'm part of, what or even my amount of tokens that I keep. Like those things are quite dangerous actually to share with everyone.
Mhm.
And the other thing was scalability. I'm not sure if that's already fixed now with like the layer 2 solutions.
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, I would say scalability has definitely been improving quite a bit over the last year. So whenever you make a transaction on a blockchain, you always have to pay a transaction fee, or someone has to pay a transaction fee somehow. The Ethereum mainnet transaction fees have dropped a lot. When it comes to layer 2s, as you referenced, these are blockchains that kind of are built on top of Ethereum. They also tend to be like fractions of a penny. So I mean, you'll see, at least I'm going to be using Gnosis chain, and the transaction fees for this one are, I mean, a tenth of a tenth of a penny. So really spending very little, and oftentimes actually, these transaction fees are being sponsored by other people or by organizations or something like that. When it comes to privacy, there are definitely like some, you know, maybe best practices to think about if like that's something you are worried about. There are tools out there. There are privacy-oriented wallets. So there are things there's one called Railgun is one big one that a lot of people use a little bit more. Of course, for privacy though, just to keep in mind, you have to pay a little bit for privacy, so a little bit more expensive. And then there are wallets that I am now, the name exactly is skipping my brain, but basically it's a type of wallet where it randomizes which wallet it kind of is sending to, or like that you are receiving from, so that but you have one wallet in which you can control many wallets at the same time. So it kind of no one really necessarily has a view on all of your assets at once.
Like your
So
own personal mixer or something. In that sense.
I'm so mad at myself for forgetting the name of them, but there's a different name for them. It's not a mixer, but it's like a special type of wallet. So
I'll look
the one project called Fluid Key is really interesting. It's this type of wallet, but I keep forgetting the name of it.
But food for thought. The more we know, and I think ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of create like these digital tools and these digital um, we call them solidarity primitives, solidarity tools to make a difference. Um, and we define these solidarity primitives as a rethinking of what is commonly referred to as financial primitives, right? In Web3. So we're not using the blockchain for the maximization of profit. We're using it for solidarity. We're using it for to forge solidaristic relationships between individuals. I think Josh can give us like a very quick primer on like these three that we're doing, and we'll dive into one.
Yeah. So I'd say that, like, the way that we kind of think about technology is that technology is always something that like facilitates relationships. That you can't really separate the social aspects from the technical aspect of a system. They're always socio-technical. And so the types of applications we try to build are ones trying to keep solidarity in mind, rather than like buyer seller, or like a trader trying to make money and extract from someone else. And so we kind of look to the solidarity economy as an inspiration for what types of applications we ought to be building. And so these are kind of our current portfolio of applications. The Solidarity Fund is a project that has already been existing for a couple of years now that we've been building out. Basically, it's the foundation of what makes our token work. So we have a token called Bread. Bread is a stable coin where the interest that is generated helps fund our member projects. So I'll explain a little bit more about that maybe afterwards. Stacks is a product that we're currently working on that is essentially saving circles. So you heard of chamas, or there's like many different names in different cultures. It's a way to do group savings with people. So that's something that's kind of like the next product that we're working on. And then safety nets is kind of like it's based on you may know from the Dutch system of brood funds. So if you're a freelancer, you will is kind of like a kind of insurance scheme where people all pay into it so that they're all secured whenever they have sick days and things like that. Yeah, like a crowd insurance. Great.
That's a good word.
Maybe you can get to the next slide. So maybe just to explain a little bit how the Solidarity Fund works high level. As a user, you give XDAI, which is a US dollar stablecoin, to our smart contract, which is called Solidarity Fund. It is you receive back Bread tokens, you see on the left. The Solidarity Fund will earn interest or yield on through decentralized finance, so using DeFi built on a blockchain. And then as a Bread holder, you're able to vote on how the yield that is generated gets distributed amongst the projects that are members of the network. And so 50% of the yield is based on the vote, and the other 50% of the yield is based on an equal distribution. So if one project somehow magically gets a billionaire backer and they vote all their billions into one project, it grows the pie for everyone, and not just that one project.
Yeah, in that sense, you also democratize it, right? So you make sure it's equitable by kind of making a difference between ways that you can distribute it. So it's not just based on only the democratic vote, but also that everybody has an equal slice of the pie, no matter what happens, which is a way of guaranteeing kind of the rights of those who might not have the strongest economic interest or the strongest voice. Um, so you kind of make a trade-off, but in this sense, in this case at least, you don't make that trade-off. You say actually both are important and both are relevant, and we should make sure that everyone at least gets a fair share of the pie.
Yeah. And so this is the current member project list. So it includes us. Some of you may be familiar with some of them. Regen Coordination is a group of several kind of regenerative finance or like ecological oriented projects. We'll definitely share the slides afterwards in email. Symbiota Cooperative is a group of 5 different organizations as well, including Dandelion. So if you signed up for this event, you probably used the Dandelion events platform. You've already used a product within the Bread Cooperative network. So Dandelion, you're able to buy and sell you can sell or buy and sell tickets in Bread, which is our token. The Crypto Commons Association does events on the intersection of commons theory and crypto. Citizen Wallet is a really nice mobile wallet that's really good for kind of in-person events. So we have a wallet that's specifically for Bread. If you download Citizen Wallet on your phone. Gardens is an interesting like governance platform where you can vote through a system they call conviction voting, which is really innovative kind of voting system where they also account for time in a vote. And then there's us. Yeah, go next. This is just a little picture of kind of a real distribution that we've done before. So, you know, we have a distribution every month. So every month we have for this month in particular, we distributed over 2K, and you can see based on the votes that people submitted to our application. We then made a distribution that was calculated from that. So yeah, kind of the thing that we build. This is kind of like a little slogan we have: financial tools for today, solidarity forever. So the idea is to build with the reality of right now in mind, what financial tools need to be created so that we can create systems that are solid and resilient and that breed relationships of solidarity.
And I think we'll be addressing all of your questions, I think, also in a few of the upcoming slides, especially the wallet questions that Stuart had.
Yeah. So got to make sure you get through this a little quickly, so we have make sure we have time for the little demo. That's a little primer on wallets or accounts, is what they're called in crypto. So in order to interact with any sort of application, you need to have an individual wallet or account. The way to think about how a wallet works is you have to know a little bit about just high level public-private key cryptography. Basically, it means you have a random set of large kind of numbers and letters that you keep as your password. And that password is something that can never change and is always linked to your public key. And your public key is another set of random numbers and letters, but a little bit less. And you're able to share that with whoever so that they're able to send you any cryptocurrency. I'll explain in the next slide a little bit, maybe in case it's interesting for people on what that is, but there are two types of high-level wallets. You can think of cold wallets and hot wallets. A cold wallet is a wallet that is always offline, so it's never kind of touches the internet per se. So these are hardware wallets. So there are certain companies that sell these, like people were mentioning Ledger, like that, or Trezor. Paper wallets, that just means you just write down what your private key is, which is your password, and you hold it, you save it somewhere in your back pocket or wherever else, somewhere safe maybe. So if you lose the private key, you will lose access to the funds that are held in it. And then there are hot wallets. So these are much easier to use and more kind of what I would recommend as like a first. If you want to just get started on using things a little bit and experimenting, I would say just create some sort of hot wallet. They are connected to the internet, but most cybersecurity kind of like standards today, they will put the private key in a place that is inside your computer that is safe, or not at least accessible by the outside. But you have wallets that you can download on your desktop. You can put them in your browser. It's kind of the most common way of doing it. Web wallets, and there's also on your phone. The recommendation that I have, my personal favorite, is called Rabby, R-A-B-B-Y. It's my favorite wallet to use. It's what I use in my browser pretty often. Yeah.
Why is that your favorite one? Can I ask?
It gives a lot of extra information that's really useful, and it has a really good like ability to organize. You can have multiple wallets inside of it, and then you can organize them very well. I find for me, and you can like label them, and it's better at recognizing all of your assets or tokens that are in that wallet. Yeah, among probably a few other things, but yeah. For private and public keys, again, like private keys, think of it as your password, or you can think of it really as your login for your bank account. So your like username and password to enter into, whatever banking application you use, and your public key is maybe your IBAN. So if somebody knows your IBAN, they can send you money. It doesn't matter, like they can't derive their private key by knowing their IBAN. But the private key or your username and password is something you never want to share with anybody else. So those are important things to keep in mind. And so the thing that we're going to be talking about, and I'll be showing today, is how we use what's called a multi-signature wallet. So you can think of this as basically a joint bank account. This is something where multiple people are a part of this shared bank account. and you can set the rules of how transactions can be made outside of that account. So in this case, this is a 2 of 3. So effectively, it's kind of like majority rules, where if 2 of the signers or owners of this joint bank accounts are approve of a transaction, then it'll go through, even if a third one doesn't want it to happen. And so there are different ways. One thing to keep in mind is that this is very modular. You can always kind of change this arrangement how you want. So there's no like kind of, it doesn't have to be 2 of 3. You can make it 1 of 3. You can make it 3 of 3. What's really nice is you have this flexibility on how you can set it up.
Yeah, and to just say it in a very simple way, that means you can make your bank account, your shared bank account, something that can only work when there's a majority of people that agree with a decision being made, a transaction being made, um, which is in a sense you democratize your organization, you democratize the funding and the spending within your own organization. So if you want to really embed democratic principles within what you are doing, it's important for it to also be reflected in how you handle finances and how you handle financial tools, which is also what we're going to be speaking about now.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'll give a little demo of this application called Safe. It's basically the most used and proven product for multi-signature wallets in the Ethereum world. And it basically costs nothing to use. It's very, very cheap to set one up. And what we're going to do, hopefully we can get through all of them today. Going to try creating a multi-signature wallet. I'll show you how to do that. How to add other people to your multi-signature wallet, how to make a transaction, and how to set spending limits, which is a really cool feature as well.
Perfect.
So yeah, I don't know if there are any, maybe while I bring this up, if there are any.
Yeah, if there are any questions, comments, like stuff, maybe to just kind of elaborate a bit, like the whole idea of this safe wallet is that it's a treasury management system, right? So you're managing like funds, and you are doing it in a collective way, and you're allowing multiple participants to share control of that without it being that everybody can just take out money randomly. I think when we spoke about a few of the challenges, it has to do with financial transparency and accountability, where money can just disappear from the left and the right, and um, nobody knows about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if were there any thoughts or questions before I go into it? No? People want the demo. Okay. So Safe is a product we've been using for Bread Cooperative. It's how we manage our money. It's where we keep the vast majority of our funds in. And we always manage it in a very democratic way. So one thing to keep in mind is when using products like this as well, when it comes to democratic management, there's always a human aspect to any of this. There's always we always have meetings, and we reach consensus so that we know what the expectations are of how this product should work for us. And so we specifically do quarterly budget reviews where we see how much money we have left, what our runway potentially is, how much we're willing to pay ourselves, and how many hours people are willing to work for that quarter. And then we we do a whole bunch of analysis on first, how much on all of these things like financially, and discuss what we're comfortable with. And then we implement everything into the Safe. So it's always like a process. But the things that, of course, I want to talk about and show you is to kind of show these technical things, because they are fairly straightforward once you've decided how it is exactly you want to use it. So what I have here right now is a wallet that I've created just beforehand so that it doesn't we don't use too much time, but what I can do, I can create an account just to show you kind of how it works. So if you go to the application is app.safe.global, where you will be able to create an account. All you need to do is make a name for your account, for your wallet that you want to do, and select the networks that you're going to be using. So in our case, we're going to be using Gnosis Chain, but what you can do is pick as many as these other blockchains that you could potentially be using. And they're all going to have the same address. So they're all going to have the same public key. You would click next, and then you would add the people that you would want to be in your multi-signature wallet or your joint bank account with you. And you can set who these people are. I have a bunch of different people that I've saved over the years that would be in that I've worked with. So including Unai, who's in the call now. And I can set the threshold. So because I have 3 signers, or there are 3 people in this joint bank account, I can set whether I want it to be 1 of 3, 2 of 3, or 3 of 3. And so any policy that I want to create will first require this level of threshold to be met for any sort of action that we want to take. I would click next, and then it would give me a review of my setup, and I would be able to create the account. They even offer to sponsor it as a free transaction. So in this case, it's effectively free to do it. But if I wanted to pay for it myself for whatever reason, the fee is 0.001 XDAI. So XDAI is, you can think of it as dollars. So it's a tenth of a penny to create a joint bank account, which, if many of you may have had experience with, it is generally much more expensive to make a joint bank account in a normal bank, right? So this is something that is really, really neat. And I would just press create account, and then it would take me to what I was showing you previously. There it is. So that's the first one. So next thing I want to do right now, if I go to my assets, I'll see that I have 9 XDAI. This is just $9 that I put into the account beforehand in preparation for all of this. And if I go to settings, I can see who the members are. I've created wallets for this, just random ones, so Safe Demo 1 and Safe Demo 2. But I have a wallet that I want to, a new person that I want to add to manage these funds with me. Right now, it's 1 of 2 signers, but what I want to create is a 2 out of 3. I want to make it a democratic organization. And so I have my accounts that I want to add on the side. Probably won't be able to see, I'm copying it. And I need to change my wallet to be one of the signers of this wallet. So I'm not sure if you guys are able to see my wallet, but right now I'm using the wallet of Safe Demo 1, which is one of the signers. And I'm going to click, oh, where is it? Let me just refresh real quick and connect my wallet again. There it is. Oh, I just missed it. Yeah, manage. So here, if you click on Manage Signers, you'll click it here. It'll show you what you have now. Say I want to add a new signer. This is going to be Safe Demo 3. And I want to make it 2 out of 3. And I just need to put the crypto address of who this is. And so I have this saved already on the side. There we go. I click next. It's going to tell me all these things that it's adding an owner with the threshold. So it's changing from, I'm adding an owner and we're changing the threshold from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 is what it's saying. And I'm going to press continue. And I can also get this transaction sponsored. So it's also free again for me to do. And I'll click execute. And then I'll get a little pop-up in my wallet, and I will confirm this transaction, and it will start to process it. Usually it takes maybe like a few seconds, sometimes a minute, but generally it's fairly quick. There you go. So transaction was successful. And so now when I'm back on my settings, I'll see that I have 3 people in my multi-signature wallet, and I have 2 out of 3 signers that are in this. So now I've created a 2 out of 3 joint bank accounts, crypto joint bank accounts. And now let's say the next thing I want to do is I want to make a transaction. We have to send some money to someone else. So this is a random person maybe we want to send to. I click on new transaction, send tokens, and put the amount I want to send. Say I want to send $1, and who I want to send it to. I will just give it to one of my other wallets, and then I will click next. And it's telling me what I'm sending. So it's 1 XDAI. And then I can sign the transaction. I can't execute the transaction quite yet. So because I've changed it to a 2 out of 3, I can only sign the transaction with one of the people who are part of this multi-signature wallet, so one of my wallets. And then what happens is I'm going to get a notification in this transactions bar, and it's going to show me that one of the minimum of 2 people needed, or 2 signers, to make this transaction come true. And so just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go and switch to my other wallet, and then I'm going to also sign this transaction. I also get it sponsored, so it's so this one will also be free. And now I can execute it because it's already been signed by 1, and now I'm the last signer to execute this transaction. And so the important thing to kind of keep in mind with a lot of this is that for example, I have used Safe for handling funds that we were donating to Gaza in the past. And one of the things that we made a mistake of, one of the times where we set up a multi-signature wallet, nothing bad happened per se, but the issue was that we made a multi-signature wallet of, I think, 7 people, and we required 7 out of 7 people to sign it in order to make the transaction. And so the issue we had was that while I was doing that workshop, a couple of people left. And so we couldn't, it took us a while to send the money that we wanted to send, because the other 2 people, we had to, text them and message them and remind them to sign the transaction so that it can go through. So that's kind of like, it's an important kind of balancing act. I wouldn't necessarily recommend to make a multi-signature wallet in which everyone needed to sign it, unless it's small enough for that and it makes sense for you. Just because things happen, sometimes a person can not be available, or whatever else happens, where that person is no longer able to sign. Now, a kind of alternative to this type of making of a transaction is you can set what's called a spending limit. So a spending limit are specific rules for people to be able to access funds at a certain time. So if I click spending limits, I can set the amount and who I want to. I can even make the spending limit for someone who is not a part of this multi-signature wallet. So someone from the outside, maybe someone who you're trying to send aid to in some way, but they don't necessarily need to be in the signers. And you can set whether this is something they're able to pull out one time every day, if it's once a week, or once a month. Are there options? And so when you set that, they're able to pool whatever amount of money that you've all agreed upon and set to do it. So I've already done this before just to make it a little bit faster. And I have a spending limit set for Safe Demo 2 is the wallet, which is the one that I'm on right now. So if I want to make use of my spending limits, I would click New Transaction, Send Tokens, and I'll have this option of spending limit. So here I can set it, I can put the max, and that spending limit allows me to send it to whoever I want, actually. I don't even have to send it to me. I can send it to whoever. So maybe I'll just send it to one of my other wallets that I own, so I can pay myself back for this demo. And I'll click next. And I can immediately execute this transaction. So I can already send the money without needing anybody else to sign off on this transaction and to confirm it. I just have to sign it from my own wallet.
And what's kind of cool about this, right, is you can think about it as how you distribute salaries. You can think about it as how you distribute spending limits for specific projects, so that you give people an amount of ability to spend funds without it having to be done and signed by everyone, but you still maintain the amount of supervision and transparency needed.
Yeah, exactly. So we use it for paying salaries, but it's possible, I mean, to set it up for whatever it is exactly you need to set it up for. And yeah, what's really cool about Safe, I mean, there's a whole, if we had way more time, I mean, you can see, you can check for yourself. The app itself has a lot of applications inside of it. So there's a lot of different types of things you can do inside if you wanted to. Some of it revolves around taking part in decentralized finance. So like you can, have a bunch of friends, put in some money and try to make money off of trading if that's something that you're into, or you can use it to manage other types of infrastructure that maybe is important for the things that you're doing. So for example, for our application, we have a multi-signature wallet that controls or like is kind of like a backstop for some of our infrastructure. So there's a lot of different things that you could potentially do for it, and it's something that we can, if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, love to explain, willing to do workshops. We've done this stuff for a long time, so I have a lot of experience under our belt for setting up these kinds of things in various types of situations, whether it's for sending aid or if it's for paying salaries or whatever else. So I made it 1 minute before the time technically, so we want to give time for Q&A as much as we can.
Yes. Questions. Arepa Collision. I love your name, by the way. Arepa Collision.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Nice. Hello. Flippy here. I got a question. Maybe you said it, I just missed it, but how does it look for people who are receiving the money? So if we have somebody, I don't know, making a campaign in DRC and needs 200 euro, do they need an account? How does the money go there from Bread Collective?
You're saying if someone has, are you talking about in for the?
Wait 1 second, I can't hear you. Something's wrong on my side, I think.
No. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry, I can't hear you right now. 1 second. Can you just plug in the headphones?
Oh.
Okay, try again.
Do you hear me?
No, but a colleague of mine is there, so maybe you can just answer and then they'll hear it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the answer to that is whoever, in order to interact with this wallet, with anything around a multi-signature wallet, you need an account yourself to make transactions. But there are definitely plenty of tools out there to where rather than maybe having to make a wallet or an account that's maybe more complex, that requires a private key that you need to keep up. There are some wallets out there that allow you to make an account with the Web2 authentication, for example. So you can make a wallet with your Google account,
And
something
I
like that.
think and I think this question is also related to just the practicality of sending the money and it being received by um, whether that's an activist or somebody else in another country. I think how do they receive it? Do they receive it on their account? If they have a wallet, they receive it in their wallet themselves. And with that, you would have to look at the local context of the country. Some countries have like ways to get out the money, which is called an off ramp, where people can just take out the money using normal banking infrastructure. Some countries have peer to peer crypto organizations or crypto communities where people can just send the money to someone else and they receive cash in return. So you mentioned DRC. So in that sense, it will probably work with local brokers or our local peer-to-peer communities, but some places might also accept crypto in and of itself. So let's say if you would have a multi-sig where you are providing specific compensation, like salary distributions based on what we just saw in the multi-sig for this individual, every month they receive 200. They can just take it out and they can send it to this local P2P group, and then they receive cash in return, and then they can make use of the funding.
Mhm.
Is that clear for one of the colleagues? Probably. Um, I mean,
How
there's also recording, so you'll receive it afterwards, most likely. Niels also has a question.
Yeah, my question is, are you, as an organization, fully decentralized, or do you have a legal entity? And in the case of the latter, do you need to do accounting reports in your resident country, or, um, I mean, in the crypto world, everything works like decentralized, but there's also like in Europe, Mika that's coming after you, and you need to report everything that you do. So how do you solve that?
So, I mean, we have a legal entity. So we have a Marshall Islands DAO LLC, that's called. So it's like a more um, the issue that we kind of have is that everyone is distributed in different parts of the world. We have people in the Americas, in Europe, in the Caribbean. So we have a lot of things that we need to do, or like it's difficult to have like a single place where we can make a legal entity. And so generally everything we kind of reporting wise, everything like that goes to Marshall Islands. Um, so yeah, we have, so like everything is like as far as like infrastructure wise is decentralized. Although I think it's kind of hard to kind of really define necessarily what that means as we use that infrastructure, but we also have a legal entity.
Okay, thanks.
And why Marshall Islands? It was more because it has a specific legal model that kind of aligns with what we're doing as an organization. So it's a DAO is like a crypto decentralized autonomous organization. Most nations don't have structures that advanced yet. I mean, there's cooperatives, of course, but it doesn't hold into account the digital aspect of the cooperative that we are. So that's why we chose Marshall Islands. Any other questions? Maybe on multisigs, maybe on. I guess it was clear. We love that. We love that our presentation was clear. So yeah, we want to thank all of you, I think, for participating. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening and learning together with us. Um, Obviously, the tools that we are using are meant to create solidarity. These tools that we are using are meant to create systems that make a change. Oh, we have one question from Chris. Yes, Chris.
Thank you so much, my brother, for elaborating everything. Although my question is a brief one, I would like asking whether there is any interest or the advantage of a person using Web3 or this platform as you've been elaborating. So if there is any bonus, then they can elaborate somehow. Thank you so much.
I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I was like inquiring, is there any bonus or added advantage for an African who might have interest or in using this platform? So that's what I was asking.
Yes, I mean, I think the benefits are, of course, that it provides you like a wallet. It provides you a tool to do like financial transactions that is decentralized, that is also sometimes much quicker and much faster if you're working with international partners. So you can send money quicker, you can receive money quicker. Um, if you're working with an organization, you can collaborate more with others um, without it having to go through. I know from Curacao, for example, where I'm from, which is in the Caribbean. It's very hard to start a bank account as an organization, and so that's going to be a huge bottleneck. So it overcomes some of the bottlenecks that are normalized for people doing good, especially in communities where the technological infrastructure is not there yet. Um, so that's one of the big advantages, but also it gives you access to maybe other financial tools too. Hopefully that answers part of your question. If not, you can always reach out to us, and we can have a longer chat. Um, if anybody else has a question, like a last comment, thought, um, then I want to thank all of you. We want to thank you all on behalf of Bread Cooperative for participating. You can follow our newsletter by like scanning the QR code. I think the link tree will also be shared, as also already been shared in
Yeah.
the comments. Yeah, we believe in solidarity. We believe in creating post-capital systems that actually elevate people, that make a difference. We are Bread Cooperative, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And good luck with everything you're doing. We're going to do it together. We're going to win. Solidarity forever, as we like to say.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys. See
everyone.
you next time. Bye bye.